Hi Josh, I'm here to give you some feedback about your essay assignment. As you've seen your final mark for the essay, you did well. You got over 19.3 out of 25, so 78%. I'm just going to go over a little bit the feedback and how you got this mark. And I just want you to keep in mind that, overall you've done a good job, Josh. It's clear that you know how to write an essay. And so all of my comments here are just to be a little bit critical so it can improve your writing, but your writing is already very organized and very clear. So I don't want you to worry about that. This is just suggestions for students who, always are working to make their writing better. So I'm going to start with your introduction. I think your introduction was the strongest paragraph, and I find in your writing, Josh, it usually is a good introduction that you can create. You start with an interesting statistic. You start with why that statistic is important, and then you transition with a question that leads into your thesis. And your thesis is answering that question. Why is it that, immigrants are speaking their language? And so your essay will explain that by saying that the factors that determine this second generation immigrants' language are writing and reading. Now, there's a constant confusion throughout your essay, Josh. We spoke about this in our feedback, and I feel like reading your final essay, I don't think that the issue was resolved. It's the question about first language. When we're talking about in Canada, your first language, the assumption is because Canada's language is English, or their first language is English, when you say first language, it implies that you mean English. But the essay question is asking why second generation immigrants maintain their language. So there's an implied idea here that they are using a language that is not the first language being English. So again, I've already given this example. If I'm second generation and my family speaks Spanish, then this is the language I'm trying to maintain, and it's my second language, while my first language, being in Canada, is English. So I just think that, whether you define the English as the first language or the second generation language as a different language, I think it wasn't clear throughout the essay whether you were talking about English or foreign language. And I think that was one of the issues I found reading your essay. Your first supporting paragraph, well organized. I scored it 5.625 out of 7.5. What I found was the organization is there, but the ideas and their connections, again, is an area that could have been stronger. So you're talking about second-gen immigrants should be able to write, and you focus specifically on the alphabet. Now, in your minor details, what I found the problem was you tell me the importance of writing cards to family, and you tell me the importance of Christmas gifts. But this is not the topic of this paragraph. The paragraph is about writing. And so here when you say they buy their immigrants Christmas presents such as electronic devices, other Christmas presents include their clothes as well, this has nothing to do with writing. And so my advice to you, Josh, is that you're very good at explaining things, but sometimes the focus that you put is not the right focus. Your focus in this paragraph should have been about writing, but I felt like you spent more time focusing on Christmas and on writing cards, and it didn't help connect these examples back to the alphabet, which is what your point was, that second generation immigrants should know the alphabet of their language. The second part of this paragraph was clearer, although again we have the issue about, are you talking about English or are you talking about a foreign language? So when you say, for example, to achieve their hopes, gratitudes, goals such as post-secondary education, or full-time career? Are they pursuing this education or career in Canada, or are they pursuing this education and career back in their home countries? Again, it's not very clear, and so your sentences are organized, but your meaning, your point isn't very complex. So if we go to the next paragraph, one piece of advice moving into this paragraph and the end of the first supporting paragraph. You're using the language of should. They should know how to. They should be able to. And this is the language of giving advice. And the question asks you what factors determine whether someone keeps their language. So if the question is asking you to explain the factors, you should be relying more on language that helps you to do illustration paragraphs and not advice paragraphs or process paragraphs. When you say should, it means that you're about to give solutions, and the question is asking you to illustrate a problem or an issue. So rely on those illustration paragraphs for topics that ask you to explain the factors. Now, the second paragraph, again, I believe my comments to you, you said that reading is important because it will allow them to read these different items in their language, such as storybooks, newspapers. You said it also helps them connect to their language when they maintain it. And I wrote here, what do you mean by connect to their language? Do you mean emotionally connect? Do you mean connect because they actually understand and that they can connect with people by showing they know how to read in the same language? Furthermore, here when you talk about critical thinking skills, again, I felt like the example wasn't clearly connected to the issue about reading. So you said they use critical thinking skills by increasing their skills on different parts of speech, verb tenses such as like and love, and use them in sentences. When we're talking about verb tenses or different parts of speech, it sounds like we're talking about writing again, and it doesn't sound unique to reading. They should use their social skills in their language by greeting each other when they say hi, hello, or goodbye. Again, you needed to connect this back to reading. So, Josh, you're again very good at providing lots of examples, but then you have to remind the reader, why are you mentioning these examples? These examples prove, so all of these examples, they prove that immigrants should know how to read because. That was the sentence that was missing and that I needed to see in this essay and that I need to see in future writing assignments. Finally, if they do not know their language, they will not be able to read in that language. It feels like you're repeating a point here as opposed to adding new information. And so again, you have a good understanding about structure. We need to practice more on making points important or relevant. And so this supporting paragraph, I marked 5.25 out of 7.5. Finally, your conclusion, I scored 1.5 out of 2. So you repeat your thesis. Keeping up in their language and writing and reading is beneficial. When you start saying professionally and socially, it gets a little bit, again, you're focusing on very specific details, and then you focus on this very specific point. They will be able to get married and have children. And I don't understand how getting married and having children has to do with reading or writing. In my opinion, they're separate. And so in your conclusion, you haven't clearly showed or proved to me as a reader why they're connected. So overall, Josh, your essay structure is good. Your sentence writing is good. I gave you 3 out of 3 for clear writing. So I don't want you to worry about essay structure. I don't want you to worry about sentence structure. What I'm more concerned about is your ability to analyze, to connect your minor details to your topic sentences, and your ability to relate or to explain implied ideas. Because there's a lot of examples here that for me to make them important, I have to infer or imply their relevance to your topic sentence. And as a reader, I shouldn't have to do that. You should be explaining it to me fully. So when you say, for example, that critical thinking skills can increase different parts of speech, such as verb tenses, I have to imply the connection to reading. And I shouldn't have to imply the connection. It should be overtly stated. Other than that, keep up the good work. Don't worry too much. This is still overall a good essay.